All righty, guys. It looks like we're live. We want to go ahead and give everybody a big welcome to Gildify Con. For those of you who are joining us for the first time or for some of the other panels, thanks for coming back and joining us. This is going to be our panel called Everybody Loves a Good Villain. So we're going to be talking about bad guys, villains, evildoers, the name of injustice. Here on this panel today, we have Stuart Gross, we have Rachel, we have Chris, and we have Jack with us today. So I want everybody to give them a big round of applause for joining us. And thank you guys for coming and spending some time with us. We really appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us here for this panel to do some talking about this. I want to give each of you a chance to do a little bit of a plug. What are you working on right now? Where can we find you? Those kind of things. And then we'll give you another chance at the end for people who are going to join late. Stuart, why don't we start with you?
All right, I'm the author of Lewd Dungeon, Dark Fate, uh, System Supervillain. I just started a new story on my Patreon called Reborn as the First Boss, and that one's about a biker chick who gets killed in a shootout and is reborn as the first boss of a sexy game.
Awesome. Rachel, you're new to the Legion authorship, correct?
I
So,
am. I am.
well,
So my name is Rachel Neekirk, and if you ever get confused about how to say my surname, picture kneecapping Captain Kirk, and you're good. I'm the author of the upcoming Knights of Eternity trilogy, which will be out hopefully next year with Legion Publisher, and I have wine,
Yes.
so I'm good to go. All is well.
awesome. Chris, why don't you give us a little intro and plug some of your stuff in there?
Hi, Chris, right under CM Carney. It's a very convincing pen name of Christopher and Michael, very tricky. I'm the author of The Realms, The Quintessence, and I've got an upcoming middle grade lit RPG series called Nightman and Page that's a
Cool.
Arthurian superhero kind of thing. That we originally designed, my writing partner and I designed that to be a animated series like 20 years ago, and never got it made, so we decided, screw it, we'll write it as books. Our hope is to have 3 of them to kickstart. I'm going to plan on giving a whole bunch of the first one away to kind of get buzz going, and it is illustrated, which is cool. Though expensive, like I said in the last panel. Art's not cheap, but yeah, that should be fun. Right now I'm finishing up the last 2 books in the Realms, and then we'll see where I go from there.
Perfect. And Jack, the newest member of the Legion Publishing Company, why don't you go ahead and give us a little plug as well?
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it. Yes, I'm Jack Fields. It's a pleasure to be here among such estimable company as these people. Stuart having a little giggle there.
Like you don't know us.
So I'm going to be writing a trilogy as well as Rachel's Knights of Eternity trilogy, and mine is beginning with a novel called Scarlet Citadel. And it's a novel about in which centers performance as and influencing the minds of others and nightmarish figures, and it's all very wacky, it's all very delightful, and it can be dark at times as well. I'm terribly excited about it, and it's exciting to join Legion too.
Awesome. Well, again, we're very happy and thankful that you all could join us today. So, without further ado, starting with everybody loves a good villain. So everybody loves to hate villains. Everybody loves to think about the bad things they're doing. Sometimes the characters are can become quite lovable, even to the point that, or maybe they're hilarious or funny. We have everything on the gambit from Doctor Evil in the Austin Powers series, all the way out to Professor Moriarty in the Sherlock Holmes series. So I had wanted to ask, if everybody knows that villains should be hated, but some can be hilarious, what makes you all choose the direction your villain's going to go when you're writing your books? Stuart, you want to start us off?
My villains all pretty much fall into the same kind of category. I do what I want because I can, and you can't stop me. And so it's pure power fantasy. So if you've ever played like games like Grand Theft Auto or Destroy All Humans and just had way too much fun, that's the kind of stuff I do. So, it's not trying to be deep commentary like Magneto or here's the crazy psychopath like the Joker. It's just I do what I want because I can and you can't stop me.
Excellent villain cast to have in there. Rachel, how about you? What kind of gets you going on writing the villains?
Well, I love villains, and I especially love when they come up against like really happy-go-lucky, do-gooder, knightly characters, and then it turns out like your do-gooderness doesn't really stand up in the real world. What does stand up in the real world is evil and villains and the people who, as Stuart said, they do what they fucking want. So my favorite kind of villain is very much the kind of person who life can be really tough, life can be really difficult, and they have sacrificed parts of themselves to get through that, but that comes with a cost. And when you come out on the other side of that, you're not a really nice person anymore in some cases. And those are my favorite kind of villains. People who have been through the ringer and they get out and like the knightly do-gooder person is like, "Oh my god, you're a terrible person." That's like, "Yeah, because I didn't have a sparkle and rainbows kind of life. And this is how I'm going to deal with it. And if you have a problem with that, get fucked." Those are my favorite kind of people to write, and those are my favorite kind of villains to put in a book.
Yes, they're the ones that are. I'm absolutely done with your shit, and I wasn't going to be a villain, but this shit is too much
It's
now.
Literally
easy to
that.
go high and mighty when you're Superman. When
Exactly.
you're not, you have to compromise.
Exactly. All right, Chris, what about you?
I find that my villains are generally the first spark of an idea after maybe a grand plot concept or a world concept, and then my hero is created to stop that person. So I tend to like, I guess, complex heroes, though the kids' book does have a mwahaha idiot villain, because that's just fun to write. But my villain of the realms is basically been so unfairly damaged by life that he's basically decided he's gonna do what he needs to get back what he lost. He doesn't give a crap who he hurts. So my hope is the last two books really explore where he's going, that people are gonna kind of go, yeah, he's an evil, murderous dick, but he kind of has a point. So that's the kind of villain I like where you could imagine if they had taken a slight different turn somewhere in their past, that they wouldn't be the bad guy they are.
They're the most fun to write, 100%.
Doesn't that always seem to be the case? There's always those times where you're finding, oh, this guy is really only a villain because he got bullied in high school, or because this happened, or where he made a different choice. If there was one small thing he could have changed, he wouldn't have turned out the way he was. Kind of a really deep, complex villain, not just somebody who wakes up and curls his mustache in the morning and he's a villain.
Mustache curling can be fun to do, in short doses.
True. Very true. All right, Jack. Now the secret has come out that you might or might not have been a rather avid DM for Dungeon Master for some D&D games. So you must have some really cool inspirations for villains to have taken on.
Oh yes, for Jez and the gang, yes, we run a D&D game. Well, I was reading The Lord of the Rings recently, and I was not entirely gripped by it. And I've bounced off it a few times. Hello. And here's the thing. At various points throughout Lord of the Rings, they're talking about this guy. And this guy, he commands this incredible force. He's terribly powerful. He was descended from the lineage of Morgoth. It's Sauron. Sauron sounds really cool. And then we go through hundreds of pages, and we never jump into Sauron's head. And that's a disappointment for me, because
10 Rings of Power happened.
Yes, well, that's a very much to the misfortune perhaps of some. But this is the thing, though. The people who I associate with the best villains are people whose brains we can hop into, and there's an organic and rich quality to them. Because as soon as we can hop into them, their villainous kind of dilutes, and they become almost protagonists in their own way. Not protagonists in the meaning of main character, but in the other meaning, champions of a cause. So I find it electrifying to write villains from the point of view of people that I can get to know. And maybe I find their causes repulsive, but I get it.
Yeah.
So yes, it ties in with what you were all saying, of course, in terms of perspective. But yes, that's the kind of thing I love to write. The most repulsive and yet understandable, because we're in their heads.
Yeah.
Actually, this leads to a question I had for people. how often do you use villain POVs, and how do you do that line between, okay, too much in their head, so now, like, I'm now siding with them instead of the hero, versus in their head enough that they don't just become, even though some mustache twirling, exactly as you said, can be a tremendous amount of fun. If you do too much of that, then they're just a Disney villain. Like, how do you get that balance?
Well, since I do villains as my protagonist, and I do first person,
Mm,
I'm in their head pretty much all the time.
mm,
If I go to third person, then it's because it's a scene where they're not involved, or it's a scene where you're seeing something from somebody else's point of view. So, like, my main character in Loot Dungeon, Kuronoth, is a dungeon that's become a god, and the guild master of the local guild, sometimes I'll shift into third person with his point of view as he tries to deal with some of the crap that Kuronoth is causing in his area. So I do it and if you ever see a knight in shining armor in my books, bad things are about to happen to him.
All right, Chris,
AJ,
what about you? That's an excellent question, Rachel. What about you, Chris? What do you think about that?
I sort of went blank on what we were talking about. Sorry.
It's the line between the POV of the villain versus the good guys.
I tend probably 2 to 4 chapters per book, and my books run 40 to 60 chapters. Usually just to I like to break up the character's POV sometimes, because I do go into other characters besides the main character.
me too.
But I like to do that either to give people a better sense of who the villain is, or to kind of show that there's that threat coming that the hero doesn't know about, so the reader does. I think when I first started plotting these books, I was way too rigid on I can't have too many POVs. I can't switch from between tenses and this tense and that. And then I said, well, screw that. Just tell the damn story the way that it wants to be told. So I don't have any issue with hopping POVs. I know some people complain about it in some of the groups. And I mean, I guess I get it, but I find it much more rich when you bring in more characters and have it POV, as long as it's interesting and they have a distinct voice, because otherwise, why are you going into them?
It's true, and it's great to have that ability to build an additional depth to your story, not just have all hero all the time and what they're thinking, being able to relate to that villain as well. Jack, what about you? Do you have you done any kind of back and forth POVs? You talked about not liking that they didn't jump into Sauron's mind. It's kind of hard to respect a villain whose number one weakness is probably pocket sand. But what do you think about that?
Wouldn't it be so fabulous to have a chapter from Sauron's point of view where he goes, "These damn hairy-footed small bastards." God damn it. But yes, no, you're completely right, Ryan. So what I think about in terms of approaching in Scarlet Citadel, certainly in the debut novel, the way I approach it is that the villains provide a different flavor of content. So while moving along with the protagonist as we progress, as we advance, the villains are progressing and advancing, but theirs is a much different flavor. I suppose a kind of maybe in terms of desserts, maybe we can go the sort of the delightful apple crumble of the hero's good time, and then the sort of dark forest gâteau of the villains, wreaking all sorts of devilish havoc. So yes, I in terms of the frequency, Rachel was talking about, you never want it to become bland or milk toast.
Can you do that in Mr. Glenn's voice?
Oh,
one of his villains.
Oh, it's Rachel's very kind. Rachel's read some of my stuff as I've read some of hers, and fabulous, by the way, and hers. And the two villains are called the two primary villains, Miss Gleam and Mr. Glint. Playful names for not so playful people. And yes, indeed, Rachel's right. Writing in that voice certainly helps, but you never want it to become bland. You never want it to become milquetoast. I would say less is more when it comes to writing villain perspectives, unless in Stuart's case you're writing MC villains, in which case you no holds barred.
More is more.
Exactly, more is more. Yes, less is more in this case.
Perfect. All right, we did have a question in from Kyle. does using D&D help you in building a villain? So I don't know if everybody here is an avid D&D player. I certainly hope that we've at least
D&D,
dabbled
Hero
in some
System,
point.
Masterminds. Half of my series use actual tabletop mechanics. So I have dice rolls and everything in the books. So yes, having like, oh, I could just go to the monster manual and get some stuff. Here's some templates to throw on there. I have a villain. So yeah, it definitely helps with some of it.
Rachel?
Sorry, I just saw JD asked, do your villains have an evil Irish accent? No, they all sound like the English, so we can get back. No, I'm kidding. That's not.
As you should.
Sorry, what was the actual question? I got
So
distracted.
the original question was essentially, does D&D play a role, any roles in you building
Oh,
characters? Have you
absolutely.
used them, something you've done in D&D before or whatever?
So I've played a bunch of role-playing games, Pathfinder, Blaze in the Dark, D&D, and it's what I love about these worlds is less the stats that I take from them, but more how creative some of the evil creatures and monsters along the way. So there's a lot of different, I have, creatures called Zandi, which are gigantic kind of like tree gods that walk around. I have like reptilian creatures that are called ripperbacks that are very peaceful unless threatened. A bunch of those, I can't remember which now, but they've all been taken from kind of different books. There's one, the Vaxion, which are one of the big shapeshifters in the group, very much inspired by Displacer Beasts, which are one of my favorite kind of monsters from D&D. I think they're fucking badass. So yeah, absolutely.
Rust monsters too.
Which?
Rust monsters too. It's like, oh, you have that nice, shining, magical, plate armor. No, you don't.
No, you don't. Yeah.
All right, Chris, you had any inspiration from D&D before?
Oh, absolutely. My series is basically the two biggest influences out of the 1,000 million that have probably invaded my brain is D&D and Elder Scrolls. And if you read my books, you'll be able to go, okay, that's this is a that. For one of my upcoming series, depending on when I write it after the Realms, I don't know if you guys remember what the Zorn are. Those weird three-legged things that just eat jewels. Well, my character gets a baby version of that ends up becoming like a really annoying pet that he has to take care of. I haven't really figured out what I'm doing, except that I might name him Larry because that makes me laugh. But yeah, so you could probably find 40 of the monsters in the Realms and go, yeah, that's this, that's that, that's that. In fact, one of my favorite ones, I took the square Modron dudes, like the Order guys, which one of the characters can summon. I call it a quadrata because, fancy. He ends up in the realm of chaos and makes the mistake of summoning it, and it basically turns into a eyeball stock monster, which we're not allowed to use. I think actually we can now. I think D&D changed their rules. But that used to be, using the Beholder was not allowed back in the day. So
add an extra eye stock. Change the name.
Don't call it a Beholder.
No, I didn't even call it anything. You just basically transformed in this.
Yeah.
All right, and Jack, how about you?
I love as well the synonyms that they impose for beholders. Like, oh god, we need another name for these eye stocky guys. Spectator, just ship it. Like, looker, call one of them just how about a peeper? And maybe not that one actually.
Yeah, the optometrist.
But the yes, in terms of D&D, yeah, absolutely. Well, the origins of D&D's monster manuals, like the Fiend Folio and these books, back in the original AD&D days, those are horror books. The idea of the original D&D is, of course, you're patrolling the dungeon, you're using your 10-foot pole and that kind of thing. But really, you're so frightened of the monsters because one goblin represents a killing threat. Yeah. So, of course, they had gelatinous cubes and all of these classic creatures and rust monsters, displacer beasts, etc. And so, of course, I am inspired by that horror element because...
And then we have Goblin Slayer.
Which?
And then we have the Goblin Slayer anime.
Yeah.
Well,
shows you how dangerous goblins can be.
Well, that first episode especially, how traumatizing.
But, Definitely
Yeah.
reframed. Yeah.
So yes, I take the horror element from that certainly, and sort of suffuse it through monster creation. For example, I think I describe a creature as take a timberland wolf, inflate it to 3 times its size, attach worms instead of claws, and pump it full of mustard gas. So, I love that idea of kind of that sort of visceral horror from creatures. So yes, absolutely, that's inspired from D&D. Great question, by the way. So good.
Excellent. All right, so getting us a little bit back onto the villains, even though it's an interesting thought to think that monsters can be the villains of your books as well, to utilize those things. But let's talk a little bit more about something a little bit more aspiring for you guys as classic villains. What would you guys say are some of your favorite and most well written classic villains from any genre? It doesn't have to be lit RPG. It can be movies, TV shows, whatever you'd like. I'm going to go backwards this time, and I'm going to start with Jack. So I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay, absolutely. So I must say I'm galvanized by Stuart's idea of the MC as villain. The two that jump to mind from antiquity are Edgar Allan Poe's. There's a short story called The Cask of Amontillado, and we get from the point of view of the main character, Montresor. The whole point is taking vengeance upon a foe by breaking them up into a wine cask room. And the last line that the person screams before Montresor tucks them away completely is "For the love of God, Montresor," and just such like desperation in his voice. Very powerful. I suppose also you can't talk about villains from antiquity without talking about Lucifer Morningstar in John Milton's Paradise Lost. I mean, there's the quintessential sympathetic villain. And interestingly, the first epic poem not written in rhyme. Those would be my two choices, I would say.
Perfect. And a lot of people may not realize that that's where Lucifer Morningstar kind of got his start there, not from the Netflix or the NBC series Lucifer, which also was very good, but at the same time. All right, Chris, how about you? Classic villains.
You mentioned Moriarty, who's just one of my all-time favorites, and I have tweaked that concept into a stupid villain for the kids thing at some point. So it's been a weird combination of trying to make an evil, dumb Moriarty, but it's kind of working, I think. And then a slightly less known one. I don't know if anybody's here read Peter Hamilton's sci-fi stuff.
Yeah.
In Pandora's Star, there's that series. There's a alien race called the Prime, which just were the most terrifyingly evil because they're so xenophobic that the main villain of that species killed every other member of his species because they can't abide anything that's not them, and they have like all these sub bodies that they control. And then the whole point of the book is they basically put a energy field around this star to prevent this race from getting out because they would attempt to kill everybody. There's no negotiating. So it's like the aliens from Aliens, but actually with like sentience to it. So I have that kind of irredeemable evil is sometimes interesting to me. I haven't written anything like that, but just the can't negotiate with it is kind of a fascinating concept, especially when you get into the psychology of this thing's. You're almost like you don't agree with it or understand it, but you're like, whoa, get the hell away from these fuckers.
Yeah, Rachel, how about you? Classic villains.
So there's a quote from the Spider-Man films, not the responsibility one, that lives in my head rent-free. Now, ironically, I'm going to fuck up the quote, but it's when the Green Goblin is saying, like, people love a hero, but they love it more when the hero fails. And that's what I love. I love a hero. So my book is called Knights of Eternity. So one of the knights, literally your iconic white knight, legends, everyone adores this man. He is the worst bastard you've ever met in your life because he fell, he got broken. And that's my favorite type. I want to see someone go from you did everything right, you did what you were supposed to do, and your life still fell apart along the way. And what do you do when you get to that point and you go, I have to make a choice that I keep doing these things that keep breaking me, or I can look after myself. And if that makes me a villain, then so be it. And that's the kind of person I really want to read. I want you to read someone who that fall from grace, very Lucifer, More the TV show NBC, which is what I was thinking when you said Lucifer, which I think shows where our two references are slightly different, but more that, where that's more the kind of villain that I love reading about and love writing about as well.
Perfect. All right,
For
Stuart?
me, my two favorite villains
Thank
of
you,
all
JD.
time are going to be either Magneto from the X-Men,
Almost
where
same.
where childhood is saying Magneto's the bad guy, adulthood is saying he has some good points. And the other one that I just really love is the Daleks from Doctor Who, who are that unstoppable force. You cannot reason with them or do anything. They are there to do one thing, and they do it well.
That's true.
My day job is I'm lucky enough to work for a video game company, and I work as a game writer, and some of my favorite people to write have just been they're just evil. That's who they are. And it doesn't have it that's it. And that's all there is to it. They are the Daleks of the
What
universe.
they do, and that's what they're there for.
And they love it.
Yes.
They're like, why are you doing that? They're like
backstory. It's like it's like how I say, I do what I want because I can, and you can't stop me.
Yes,
One
thing that completely. One thing that I love that Rachel's done is in her work. There's a trend of taking that which is wholesome and corrupting it. For example, she has, I think, she has, I know actually, taken like grandmotherly figures, one that you might associate with total kind of, cookies in the morning and the most delight, and made them the most deranged, despicable horrors one might imagine. And so she's great at doing the turn of the screw that way. It's great.
Thank you, Jack.
Awesome. All right. Well, but I do have another question for you guys. Thinking again about the villains, and it's something that's kind of a core value in most storytelling things, to have somebody to have struggle against, to hate, to whatever the case is. If what is it that you guys do as authors to come up with original ideas for villains? We know that we know that there can a lot of times be an old hat or a stereotype. We talked about the mustache curling or roped them up on the train tracks kind of villains. But trying to stay away from tropes or stereotypes. What do you guys normally do to come up with a new villain topic idea? Rachel, I'm going to start with you. We're going to go out of order this time.
Sure. I'm gonna kind of go the other way. I don't think there's anything wrong with doing something tropey or cliche. What matters is the point of view you come from. So if you're thinking of like the human aspect of what are they doing when they are tying the damsel to the train tracks with rope, that is still a tremendously fun scene to write. That can still be something absolutely great. I don't think there's actually anything wrong with that. I think the main thing that happens, and I think this is when we go into mustache twirling territory, is when you don't have, it's why I love villain point of views, and it's why my main character in Knights of Eternity is trapped in the villain's body in an arcade game. And it's like, who is the villain on the other side? Like, what are they thinking? Why are they doing this? And it doesn't have to be a tragic backstory. It can be literally like, because I can, or it can be, I was forced into these circumstances. But once you add that human element, be as tropey as you like, be as cliche as you like, it's adding that personal element. I think that's the big difference, personally.
All right. Chris, how about you?
I think a lot of my villains, and I didn't realize this until I started creating like outlines and for other series that I might write someday, is they're all sort of thematically similar. And apparently it's going to be something to do with my psychology, that they're almost always either a corrupted god or somebody using the power of religion in a bad way. Or the variation of that, of people with power misusing it to people who don't have it. And so I don't know what psychology that is. I mean, I was raised Catholic, which I'm not anymore, so that probably has something to do with it.
The Irish people don't know anything about that, Chris.
Yeah, exactly. So it's funny how I didn't go into writing with this as my thematic engine, for lack of a better term, but it seems to come up a lot. So I'm like, here's another bad guys doing bad things in the name of being good.
All right. And Stuart, how about you?
Like I said, I do villains as protagonists, so every time it's going to be some kind of power fantasy. It's going to be some kind of, hey, here's things I just want to do, and these are things that you don't usually get to do, and so it's like it's all basically, hey, does your life suck in real life? Here's something that doesn't suck, and you can take it out on the people that make your life miserable. So yes, I do sometimes write people I know into my books.
I think everybody's done that before. So, all right.
We
and
should all
Jack?
just reverse the names of people we don't like and just put it in there and make it really obvious.
No, I
They'll,
just
Yeah.
they'll never guess.
just change one letter.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. Or make them weird like palindromes or something like that. That's great. So yes, it's difficult to approach ideas of originality. I'm going to concur with Rachel on that one. I think tropes, when mined elegantly, are like they're tropes for a reason. They're impactful as hell. So, but you can retrod ground in new and interesting ways. For example, if you're thinking about villains with relationships, trying to ground them and make them as real and rich as possible. One thing I do is that I make them a dyad, a partnership. So Miss Gleam and Mr. Glinter are obviously part of the same organization. And they're not just united by the fact that they have subcutaneous injections that make their dermal tissue sparkle in the most sort of macabre manner. And they're united in the fact that they really like each other. They rely on each other. Oh, a delightful little jingle there. And did anyone else hear that jingle?
No, I did.
Okay.
That
Oh,
was
okay.
a
There
very
we go.
sexy
Okay.
ringtone. That was what that was.
Yeah, I was going to be like, oh, that is actually their theme music, Stuart. So thank you for that. The villain's theme music. So when approaching newness, maybe it's unfamiliar to certain audience members to find a villain who isn't a lone wolf, or someone who pushes the idea of intimacy away. I love the idea of making villains as terrifying as possible, with the fact that they care about the people they're fighting next to. Rich relationships, brutal consequences.
And I just
I
want to
love
say,
that.
Idea to think about them caring like that.
Tools are in the toolbox for a reason, and it's how you use the tool that makes it good or bad. Like if you use a hammer is a great tool. It's not the best for open heart surgery. So don't try to use the hammer for everything. But if you need a nail in there, or you need to encourage somebody to go elsewhere, a hammer is a great tool.
It sounds like a bad villain schlock horror movie, the Hammer Heart Surgeon.
All right. Well, we did have a
I
question
do
coming
buzz
from
on myself, but
Yeah. All right. We do have a question coming from Nathan. That says, if you guys are writing a villain MC, which may apply more to Stuart, but we can all think about others we've seen in the past, everything in stories we've read. I mean, even TV shows like Invader Zim, where we had an evil villain as the main character there. Are there tricks that you use to make their antagonist the presumed hero, someone the reader dislikes, or is that not desirable? Since this is kind of your specialty, Stuart, I'll let you start off.
All right. So with my books, if there isn't really a main antagonist for my books, because villains are inherently proactive while heroes are inherently reactive. So the villain is the person who goes out and does something. The hero is somebody who, responds to that. So I don't have antagonists usually in my books. It's more likely to be a road bump of the week. And so if usually you'll see like somebody who's bright and shining hero, or moral high ground, somebody like that, and that's a clue that they're about to get horrible things done to them. They're going to be violated in so many horrible ways that Facebook will not allow me to talk about.
You don't need to say that with such a smile on your face, Stuart.
I do. I really do.
Yeah, it's needed. It's absolutely needed. Rachel, how about you?
One, that was a great question, Nathan. I really liked that because it made me think of my own book and like, is that something I do? Is that something I set out to do? And I think the answer is no. I don't think you need to. I think what's more, you don't have to make your reader dislike your hero. I think what's more important is that your reader understands why your villain dislikes your hero. I think that's it. They might not agree. They might still be on the side of the hero or whoever it is. That's totally fine. But I think what's more important is that they get, okay, no, I understand where this is coming from and I understand why they're here. Because it's, to go back to an earlier question about from Lars about kicking the dog. I don't think you need to make your hero kick the dog. I don't think you need to make them do anything. You just have to like understand where your villain is coming from. To me, that's more important.
That makes a lot of sense. All right, Chris. Now, I know you may not have had any books that were specifically from the villain point of view, but if you were looking at that way, what kind of things do you think you might be looking for? Would you do something similar to Stuart with the, this is the rope, the pebble in the way of the wheelchair for the day, or
I mean, that definitely sounds like a fun way to do it, especially if you're going slightly more comedic or like, I'm not trying to write the great American novel kind of thing. That's definitely a fun way to do it. I also kind of think that, as history's probably shown us, that good and evil isn't always this distant two colors. It's a gray, and depending on which side you're on, the other side's evil and you're the good guys. So perspective is a lot of it. So I would think the best way to make not necessarily dislike the hero if the villain is the main character, it's just you've got to show that their motivations might be pure, but their methods not. There it is sometimes. Or the fact that they're trying to force their version of goodness on the rest of the world, which I also don't like. That's like personally, I don't like that. So that would be the type of quote good guy that I would put in if I was writing that kind of book.
Yeah, it's funny to think about that spectrum of evil when you're talking about some of those things, that there's all kinds of different people who've been created as complete villains, or just maybe the villain of the story that's going on there. We have people who are just absolutely evil all the time, doing evil for the sake of evil. Again, like I mentioned in the beginning, Dr. Evil, one of the people who just wants to blow up things so he can make a whole bunch of money, versus somebody that, and it may seem childish for me to bring this up, but I think it's absolutely hilarious, is Dr. Doofenshmirtz from Phineas and Ferb, where while at the same time he's the villain of the show, where he's always trying to take over the Tri-County area, at the same time he's this
wonderful,
incredible dad to this teenage daughter during
one
this
of the
divorce.
best dads in cartoons ever.
Yeah, so it's incredible to think about how that gray area is. How gray the area is versus black and white, where most people, when they view the world, can sometimes get stuck in this black and white sense of morality versus the spectrum that we actually experience in everyday life.
I saw Michael Head's question, and I want to
answer this question first, though.
Oh yeah, no, totally.
You can't.
Sorry.
You guys work together. That's
Forgive me,
okay.
Jack. Forgive me, Jack.
No worries, Rachel. Just adding you to the death note. But although I'm delighted you brought up Phineas and Ferb, I think it's important to make if you're going to make your hero that the MC villain is fighting against, make them a platypus. So I think if it were, this is the thing as well, though. Chris brought this up. The idea of the spectrum of grey going to the extent of black and white. Oh, there's something delightful in terms of the pure white, the pure black, morality-wise. If you can get, did you all see the D&D film that came out quite recently with the paladin figure? I think if you're going to character in a certain light, you're going to have a character really, really hate them. Your main character hate this antagonist of theirs. Sometimes it can be wonderful to write them as this, bastion of goodness, or evil and loving it. There's, oh, you magnificent bastard, you foiled me again. So I think that there can be a great deal of merit in using those. Actually, the audience really does dislike this character. And that's okay, because sometimes you got to love to hate someone. It can be very compelling. That would be my approach.
Yeah.
Definitely, it's a very cool thing to be looking for and an experience when you're reading a book or watching a movie or a TV show, even to see those things happen. Before we get to Michael's question, I'm just going to very quickly say, Paul, the answer is yes. I did listen to it. And Michael, we're going to go to Michael's question. Question for the group: do you ever see yourself writing a story where the villain has a redemption arc? So it's an interesting thing to think about, that not only is it somebody who is considered evil, or again, maybe started out good, became evil, but then has a chance to see the light or turn their life around, or somebody gave them a box of chocolate for the first time on their birthday and they realized the world isn't such a horrible place. Whatever the case is, have you considered doing that? Let's start with Jack on this one.
People don't change without making changes. It's immensely difficult to create a redemption arc that's believable. No spoilers for Scarlet Citadel, the upcoming novel, but it's something I am trying to explore and make it as honest as possible, as close to the bone as possible. The idea of, this is the thing, it's so difficult to redeem a villain because most of the time they believe they're not a villain. So, it's very rare that you get an evil character who really thinks, God, this is dreadful what I'm doing, turning the corkscrew on a or kicking a dog, as Lars said. It's rare to find someone who actually believes that about themselves. They think that they're the good guy. I suppose Handsome Jack in the Borderlands series sort of emphasized that. So, yes, I think that it is possible to do, but it has to be close to the bone as possible and honest as possible. And given the time it needs, Terry Pratchett's very good at it as well. But yes, I think it's hard but doable.
All right. And Rachel, you were eager to answer this one, so I'll let you go next.
Sorry, redemption arcs for villains is my crack cocaine. I love it so much. Oh my god, especially when it's done well. Oh, it's so fun, because my favorite type of redemption arc, and what I try to do in Knights of Eternity as well, is I want you to be a villain, go to become a hero, but you're a bit of a shit hero. So you're going to go do the right thing, but you might kick a dog along the way. Like that's how it stays believable for me. It's like, it's not that you're suddenly a totally different person. It's like, okay, you're trying to change your motivations, or you're seeing there's another way. But listen, you're going to like crack open an ATM or two along the way. Did anyone get hurt? No. But look, that's just how it is. So that's my personal favorite one. I think Loki is an excellent example of that. Now, he's a bit more of a sop in the TV series, but what I do like about him is he's someone who is extremely compelling. And even when he did turn around and help Thor, etc., along the way, he was still very Loki about it, because that's what made it believable and that's what made it compelling. They stay true to who they are, but they've switched sides along the way. And I think that's my favorite type of arc.
It's brilliant.
Stuart, how about you?
I would have to be very drunk to do a redemption arc for a villain. Because my villains are all, they know they're villains. They're fine with being villains. They don't care that they're villains. They're just doing what they want to do. So if I was doing it, it'd be like, the time where I, my D&D group was complaining that I always did evil characters. So I went and did a lawful good fighter. Just to show that, named Captain, that was based off Captain America, just to show them that I could. And they hated that because I went a bit too hard with it. But, so, most of the time, I don't think I'd ever actually do a redemption arc unless, like,
we get you drunk.
Somebody got me really drunk or bet me a bunch of money.
I love the idea of going too far with good. Stop saving kittens. They don't fucking need your help.
Your lawful good paladin stereotype, where it's like, you just destroy, so where it ruins the group's fun because you keep trying to preach at them while they're in the room. So yeah, no, where it borders into lawful stupid.
It's like John Cleese's knight character
in a minute, but I'm gonna let.
In Holy Grail that comes in and saves the guy from the Castle of Virgins or whatever it was. Like that guy, you're like, dude, go away.
The most violent scene.
Most of my villains already had their opportunity for the redemption and didn't. Whether it was, and I kind of, the way I've tried to write him, or at least I will be in what I've written for the book 8 of the Realms, without giving spoilers away, is he's offered a chance in the past to redeem himself, but he doesn't. It comes down to not really having the courage to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's out of selfishness or a combination of other things, he's unable to do it, even though he knows he should. And then the rest of his life essentially is partially dealing with the consequences of that failure.
That's brilliant. It's
Yeah.
very Robert Frost. You come to a road in a yellow wood, and when faced with it, you chose the road with murder.
Yeah.
Murder
No,
is fun.
Sorry, you have Stuart on one side yelling "murder is fun," and and on the other side it just looks like boring with kittens and rainbows. And you just
Can't
don't want
spell
to do.
slaughter without laughter.
But no, I loved your answer, Chris. That's super compelling. I 100% agree.
All right, so I thought of a little something else here. Talking again about some of those gray areas that we looked at before. Something that's always been a fun idea for me is the people that I would consider chaotic good. If you play D&D, and that's a lot of people have mistaken. A lot of people who play D&D, especially in the beginning, kind of mistake what chaotic good really is, and it really ends up being, I will do the right thing no matter what, no matter how many people I have to slaughter, no matter how many towns I have to burn down, I will do the right thing. What do you guys? How do you guys feel about characters that have this sense of morality, but kind of end up being the bad guy in the end? Stuart, what about you?
So my view, since I play D&D, my view on the good and evil and law and chaos thing is good is inherently selfless and evil is inherently selfish, while law is inherently society-based and chaos is inherently, personal-based. So you could have a chaotic evil that still has code of honor. It's his own, strict code, but if somebody goes by the rules of the land, they're lawful. So chaotic good people are people who they're going to do what they think is right. It might not be what's by the laws of the land. So Robin Hood is chaotic good. Steal from the rich, give to the poor. Oops, I shot a few people along the way. That's chaotic good. Whereas lawful evil is, well, the king says you need to pay all your taxes, and that means you're going to lose your house now. So yeah,
it's a very fine line for how those things can be divided. I like that. I like that thought too. Rachel, how about you?
So I love that because I always end up playing chaotic good characters in campaigns. In my Blades of the Dark campaign, basically someone was poisoning a street drug, basically. So a lot of people were ending up dying when they would use it. It was affecting especially a lot of working class or homeless or like people who are already disadvantaged. So what was my character's solution to this? She became the new drug kingpin. Because this way she could make sure it was always clean cut, everyone could get what they wanted, no one was taking something they didn't know anything about. And this to her made total sense because she's like, well, I can't change the fact that this drug is on the street, it's always going to be there, but I can make sure that when people get it, okay, they might OD if they use it wrong, but that's just them being stupid. And I think that's a really I've forgotten the original question because I like talking about chaotic good, but it's a tremendously fun thing to write because as long as you can see what the person was thinking, you can do almost anything with it as long as it's within the realm of believable. But yeah, that to her made total fucking sense because how else am I going to look after people?
Totally understand, and it's one of those very fine lines to walk. You see what you think is the morally right decision, realizing that society is not going to help you in this. So what are you going to do in the meantime to make it up for those people that are needing it, kind of a thing. Chris, how about you?
I think in my stuff, the best example of somebody who ended up doing bad things for potentially good reasons was the third book in the Realms. It's from the sidekick's 1B main character's point of view. And he gets trapped it's basically Groundhog's Day in a little RPG world. It's exactly what I did. So when he realizes he's in a time loop that's going to keep coming back, and that all the people in this inn with him are got more going on than it seems, so he ends up going on basically just murder a hobo on him because he realizes he has to grind, and he doesn't know what he's supposed to do to get out of this. Just like in Groundhog's Day, that guy didn't know what he was supposed to do. So he keeps it's. I probably show variations of 30 different little rebirths. Sometimes it's like literally he's reborn, he dies, and that's the whole thing. But it's implied that he's in there for who the hell knows how long. It could be 1,000 years. So he comes out of it with one skill that he's basically become OP in, which was key to the rest of the series. So I had to figure out a way to do it. But he's not a murder hobo guy. And at one point he's like, I might have a problem, because even though he knows it's going to reset and no one but him is going to know, he still killed these people like 100 times over at least. So that was a lot of fun to write.
Yeah, kind of like the question of is the Axeman of the kingdom the strongest man in the universe because he has the most experience from killing people? And I just, because I'm a squirrel, because I have like squirrel ADHD, I just saw somebody put in Michael had cranberries, and the only thing that went through my head was, is that Michael's secret Russian spy word? We have to be careful not to say that out loud, or he goes crazy. Sorry, Jack, would you like to keep going though?
At exactly the same time as you said, I don't know if we're allowed to say that. Like, is it Michael came with, that's fair, that's incredible. Michael, the safety word is pineapple. Take it easy. Michael is in the D&D group. Yeah, he's Michael is in the D&D group I run, and he is iconic to say the least. So chaotic good. In Scarlet Citadel, my novel, Hughes, the main character, starts out very much outside the system and must use illicit chaotic good means in order to work around it or to get one up on it, and perhaps even to join in with it. So in other words, like before you can be inculcated into the system, sometimes you have to push back against it. This is a trend we saw a lot in, I don't know how much YA y'all have read, but there was a period of time, like 15 years, in which every YA protagonist was a young woman going against the system with like generally with a magic system and generally with a Jesus character as her mentor. Not looking at you, Brandon Sanderson, but I am looking at you. So I think chaotic good, as we talked about earlier, is a perspective. Just go harder.
It's a very confusing time for Michael usually.
Avocado.
Avocado. Okay.
Michael, of course, you got it.
I do think you just ruined avocados for me.
Yeah.
It's really confusing because everybody has a different safe word for Michael, so we have to.
Interestingly, Chris, he's just made avocados for me. So what was I going to say? Yes, so it's all about perspective. Ultimately, the place where you root chaotic good is, as Stuart eloquently explained earlier, is on that like graph of society versus wilderness and that kind of thing. It's where you land, because who sets the terms? For example, Luke Skywalker is technically chaotic good.
Yep.
The Empire is in charge. And yet, when Luke blows up the Death Star, it is a moment of such terrific triumph. That's what my hope is I can achieve with Hughes, is someone who begins outside, works their way inside, and then has explosive results.
Yeah, it's an interesting point that you mentioned Luke Skywalker as chaotic good, because that just shows you how fine the line can be between those two. Because on the opposing side, Vader is the one who's considered lawful evil, always pulling out those things. And, it's literally apple doesn't fall far from the tree kind of weird fine line between that chaotic good and lawful evil system that they have going on there.
Yeah.
We only have a few minutes left before we get into it. I did see somebody had a question. I think it was, where was it again? It was Michael had the question, actually. Would you say that Gollum from Lord of the Rings was redeemed at the end of that story?
Absolutely fucking not.
No way.
No.
I'm glad we're all on
He
the same
died. That doesn't mean he was redeemed.
He was necessary for good to win, but he wasn't redeemed.
He has a little chomp on Elijah Wood's fingy. What the fuck are you talking about? No, he's not redeemed.
So, but is he a victim of the circumstance though? At the same
That doesn't
time,
mean he's redeemed.
Right,
This
he's
is
back up
not
his
being
gear.
redeemed.
Yeah, he went pretty quickly
There
to
are
like
plenty of
murdering
victims who are not
Yeah.
redeemed.
Frodo
You
has 4 fingies now.
yeah, he's got 4 left. I mean, he could have taken all of them. You know, it's-
Brian.
I love that this is the question that set the whole group off.
All right, guys. Well, we're coming near the end of the time. Again, I do want to give you a chance again to plug your work. Tell everybody where we can find you at, what you're most proud of, and what you're working on. Since we have a few extra minutes, Stuart, go ahead and give us a start.
What I'm most proud of would be my Memoirs of a Supervillain story, where I went back and rewrote my first book as a trilogy. I've also done, I mostly do serial novellas. So my book, stories are like Lewd Dungeon, Into the Black, Dark Fate, System Supervillain. The OP Lich is a returnee, and I just started a new one on my Patreon called Reborn as the First Boss. You can find my books on Amazon. Most of them are in Geneva. Just put the link up there for me. Thank you very much.
Yep. All right. And Rachel, how about you next?
Hey, so again, my name is Rachel Nykirk. Picture kneecapping Captain Kirk. You'll always remember me. My upcoming trilogy starts with Knights of Eternity. It's coming out next year. And I think I'm proud of 2 things. One is I am proud of what I hope are villains that you can also see where they're coming from and empathize along the way with, even if they do things that are often quite cruel. And also 2, I'm really fucking proud I'm with Legion. They have been absolutely nothing but fucking lovely to me, and it has been absolutely joy to work with them. And I'm really proud I get to work with my friend Jack as well, who's also a part of Legion. So yeah.
Awesome. That's great to hear that you got some people that are going to treat you so good. That's always lovely to hear for authors when you know that out in the world there's so many people looking to take advantage of authors nowadays.
There's
It's great
some
to hear that there are people
shitheads.
looking for it.
Legion are not shitheads, and that's a quote.
Not
It's going to be on her tombstone. Legion is
Yeah.
not shitheads. On when
Yeah.
she's dead. All right, Chris, how about you?
Most proud of, I think it's like not even so much proud. It's just I'm thankful that I get to do this for a living, because I finally got off my ass and finished something. I've been attempting to do it for 20 years basically and never managed to get it done. Never
story of
wrote
most of our lives.
screenplays that no one was going to buy. So finally, it just being able to finally get off my ass and get out of my own head and put the damn words on the page. That's my biggest accomplishment in that kind of area. And I want to do it until, nail the coffin down on me. Maybe like, hey, wait, I got some more. But yeah, you can find me at Amazon. She's right there. I'm on Facebook too under, I think, CM Carney's page, something like that. I don't remember what it actually is called. And look on Kickstarter sometime next year for Nightman and Page. We're going to do the trilogy. I think it's going to answer the question of if you want to get your kid into lit RPG, this is the series. So I'm pretty excited about that one. So that'll be out, I don't know, sometime next year. We're not really sure yet. So
that's great, because that is definitely something I know I see a lot in the Facebook groups. I have these kids and I want them to be able to get into lit RPG, but you guys swear like sailors. So
throw them in the deep end.
Hey, I mean, I'm all for that.
You don't understand.
Yeah, I was like the
Here we're
meme
going
that I
to
saw the other day.
tentacle monster called Captain Hentai.
Yeah, I was like the meme I saw the other day where somebody left their child with their brother, and he's like, "Oh, you can watch anime together because it's for kids, right?" And they're like, "Oh, hey Johnny, you want to watch some anime with me? We're gonna watch Berserk."
You're gonna learn today, kid.
All right,
You're
Jack,
like
let
throw
me
the
give
kid
you
in
a
the deep end and then leave kind of swimming instructor.
right. All right, Jack, let me give you a chance to plug in here.
Yes, I'm Jack Fields. It's an easy name to remember, similar to Rachel's. You just remember a large area that's generally green, and there might be grass. My upcoming novel is Scarlet Citadel. It's part of the first novel in a trilogy, and you can find me on Facebook under Jack Fields. And something I'm proud of. Yes, I'll echo Rachel's pleasure to be part of this community. What an electrifying, kind, and fabulous community of the most I suppose the grey areas, black and whites, the most deranged and brilliant perspectives that you hope to find. And I'm proud for every sunrise that comes up in which I get to write.
Ah, Jack, you big sop.
You shut up. I'm proud of you too. You shut up.
All right, guys. Well, I want to thank everybody for coming today, especially our panelists. We thank you so much for joining us. This has been an awesome time. I've had so much fun with you guys.
Same.
Thank you, Ryan.
This is a wonderful experience here. There's going to be more coming up soon in Gildify Con. The next up is going to be a takeover. So, but while you're there, get a chance to check out the pages of each of these wonderful authors here. And if you have a chance, send a shout out to Geneva as well for running all of this for us. She's been an absolutely phenomenal host for everything that she's doing for us. So thank you guys, and I hope that y'all have a great rest of your day today.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.